Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast number 349. Bringing home that lovin' feeling. I trust you guys have had a marvelous week. You folks were kind of quiet. This is for a long time. I didn't hear nothing from you folks this past week. And I understand, life does get busy, but I missed you. But I do appreciate you stopping by and giving me some of the time this week. And of course, you guys have been really supportive. I thank you for your continuing spreading the word of the Moose Podcast. Uh, Number 77 on Apple right now. So, hey, I appreciate that ever so much. So thank you. This broadcast is being recorded using the Adobe Podcast Beta. And remember, you can head to the blog post where you will find the transcript, where the AI still doesn't seem to be kicking in as I thought it would, but it will be there for you. A number of folks have, over the period of time, told me that they have handicaps when it comes to hearing, and they appreciate that transcript. So I'm grateful that the Adobe Podcast Beta makes that possible. Also need to thank my good friends at Bedford Camera, bedfords.com. Yes, every week I mention them, I talk about them, and you got to understand, it is sincere when I talk about just how much these folks do for all of us when it comes to photography. This past week, I did a live broadcast class with them on bird photography. Man, you guys really piled in, and I am really grateful. It was a great evening, and it's just another example of Bedford's, and this time along with Nikon, putting on this free event that just helps us be better photographers. They are the home of the Moose discount. You'll see that after you check out, but great service, great prices, all the current gear. Hey, bedfords.com. Thanks for supporting the Moose Podcast. Get right into this week's topic. So for the last week, I've been out of the country on a personal project, and I got to tell you, it was over the top. It was it just blew the doors off all my expectations. Now, this week's topic, bringing home that love and feeling, is actually not something that's new to my photography or a concept that just struck me. No, it's actually something that I've been doing since probably the very beginning. This is probably, though, the first time I've actually kind of, put it in words or described it or put it in front of you as a way of perhaps improving your own photography. I am, always have been, always will be a romantic. That's just the nature of who I am. And I know at times when I have a regrettable short fuse with photographers and not able to deal with some of the shenanigans they put on, and it comes out. I am a romantic, and that romantic really influences my photography, which I think while sometimes I do have a short thread, because photographers get off on things that really make no bloody difference to the end photograph, and they get so into things that distract from their talent and their skills that it just drives me nuts. So bringing home that love and feeling. Right now, many of us are out doing summer projects. I've been talking about that for a few weeks. And I guess you could say I just came back from one of those kind of summer projects. And I shot a lot. I have not looked at the total damage, but there were days I was coming back with 9,000 and 10,000 images and a whole lot of video. So, 5 days of shooting, it adds up, right? Is there any place on the planet where I could post all those images? Or just a tenth of them? Or, 0.1%? And I would be able to express what was happening there, bring back that story, that romance, grab your heartstrings. So the challenge I've always put myself into long before social media and for many other things is that in bringing home that love and feeling, I always need to bring home two photographs. Two. One's for me, one's for you. Two photographs. And I've always, and I've like I said, I've never talked about this out loud, but I've always measured, I guess I start measuring, think about it, the success of a particular adventure, whether it's just a 1 hour air to air or it's a morning landscape shoot, a week with a critter, whatever it happens to be. I always have forever, as far as I can remember a time when I didn't do this. Look and go, did I get a photograph for me? And I get a photograph for you. Because in bringing home that love and feeling, right? I've got a lot of images, folks. You got, the just in conventional images, those slides. There's 320,000 images, and then on the hard drives, there is over 2 million images, and selecting one or two that represents who I am or my style of photography or the story of a critter or wrapping up a career. Yeah, that's really hard. And I think, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Leonard LaRue who, when I first heard how many images he had in his files, this is back in the 70s, I was like, wow, how do you narrow that down? Because in the editing process, working in the editorial world, you're constantly having to whittle down your images to those ones that you think will A, make you money, B, tell the story, C, represent who you are. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that selection. So, especially when the boys were born, going on any adventure, trip, or event or moment, I always want to bring home that picture for me and a picture for you. Now, what are those two pictures? And how does this help you as a photographer? Well, I probably just laid a whole lot on the table. I probably should start gathering up into a meal here. So, all right. Grabbing heartstrings is a really important part of, I think, wildlife photography. I see a lot of photographs out there now where it is, as I would describe, I was here. I was here. And a lot of folks, and I understand this really all too well, if the photograph, especially for critter or something that's moving like a car or a plane, if it's sharp, right off the bat, we like it, okay? And we tend to get stuck on, hey, it's sharp, I succeeded, when that's really not a measure of success. It's not. Now, I know a lot of folks who will take their images and they kind of cull them down into a dozen or so, and they show them to their significant other, and they say, which one do you like? And then they kind of go by that measure. So they kind of whittle down with sharpness and exposure. Then they go with, the significant other, and then maybe they go and put it on some sort of, have somebody, critique it for them and give them, and then maybe they call it down that way. But whose story is it? Bringing home that love and feeling from whatever that shoot you just did, whose love and feeling are we talking about? Are we talking about the viewer of the photograph or the view you want to share with that viewer? Whose love? Whose feeling? And here is why it is such a bitch to deal with this. There is no slider in Adobe Camera Raw for loving something. There is no AI program out there yet that you can, put in feelings and it's going to show you uh, whatever you want, a symbol, color, whatever for hate or love or fun. These are still very uniquely us people, right? And man, let me tell you, that's really hard for a lot of photographers to grasp onto. Most looking for numbers and graphs and charts, but I'm talking feelings here. And how important is this? How relative is it? You can, and without any trouble, look at all the images out there, and you can look at, especially with social media, these photographers who I call flash the pans, had, there's one or two great images and got all this love and popularity, and then they just poof, disappear. And that's because they didn't keep bringing home that love and feeling. Now, you're probably wondering about those two pictures, mine and yours, and what am I talking about? So when I go to any shoot, be it for any topic you could imagine, for any duration you want to label it, I'm always, like I mentioned, looking for those two photographs. Now, I have kind of put loose labels on this when it comes to the business, and I talk about refrigerator photographs and everything else. And this is a much more narrowed down part of that. So let me start with that. So in sharing photographs, there are those ones that we take a magnet and we stick it on our refrigerator because the photograph probably by itself is not really that great. But on that refrigerator, all those involved in that moment, they see that photograph and they know all the backstory. And so that photograph just reminds them of all that greatness. And it comes crashing back in this big wave of emotion. And well, that's kind of the start of that photograph. That's mine. But the thing is, with mine, it never gets put onto a refrigerator. It never gets even shared that much. It's the one that might be on my wallpaper for my computer, or maybe on the lock screen of the iPhone. But even then, I guard those shots, and those shots that are mine, they bring back just for myself those very intimate, personal moments from that shoot. And I would say that probably the number of those photographs that have been shared with the world may be less than what you count on one hand. Now, those are, I think, the most important photographs that we take because they're the ones that really remind us of why we take pictures, of why we're out there, why we go through all that we go through as photographers to bring back the story. And those are probably the ones that, if I had to categorize them, the ones that probably go straight from the camera to, whatever you're going to put them to remind yourself of them. They're not going to go into Photoshop. They're not going to be, they're done. That moment's done. And I can in my mind, just sitting here for a second and thinking about it, events from last week or last month or last year or 10 years ago, those singular images pop into my head without any prying or cajoling or, they just, boom, they come right up. They're in the forefront. Now the other picture, because I said I want to come back with two, one for me, that's mine, and one that's yours. That one that's yours, that photograph, it's going to have everything possible going for it that I can muster as a photographer. From the point of capture to the point I share it, everything's going to be in that photograph. And what's that one photograph going to do? It, it, it is not necessarily wrapping up that shoot with a big bow. Um, it's just to kind of put some sort of handle on this. Let's say I'm going to a birthday, you go to a birthday party, right? And usually the birthday party is to celebrate the birthday of one person. Well, the picture that, as far as I'm concerned, that's yours is not the person showing him having a great birthday party. It's not a specific title or place. It's a feeling, okay, that when you look at that photograph, there are times where, yeah, it'll be blatant what the story is, where it is, the subject. And there's other times where you're just going to go, wow, I got to know more. And I love photographs that actually take people into that realm. Wow, I got to know more. Those are the photographs that are for you that I take to bring you into the world in which I was so fortunate to visit. Now, in bringing home that love and feeling, yes, camera brands and f-stops and shutter speeds, that is definitely a part of it. But in those two photographs, the one that's mine and one that's yours, when I feel I've conquered that, I've accomplished that, no caption is needed. I really, the no captions is really how I prefer to share my photographs. And that is a real challenge. That is, no words. I want the photograph to tell all those words. Now, in bringing home that love and feeling, there's a lot that goes into that. I've talked about, exposure, exposing for emotion and color contrast and color psychology, all of those things and a whole lot more go into these two images. And why am I bringing this up to you now after all these years, books and podcasts and articles? Well, it seems to me that the world needs a little bit more, let's just say, heart or feeling. And as photographers, we have the unique position to bring that out in ways that can be as silent and subtle or as loud and caustic as you want. And all of those plus more are effective. And putting it all out there on the line, your feelings, your emotions, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. You understand that sometimes some people won't get it. That's okay. Sometimes lots of people will get it. And that's why I look for those two photographs. One is mine, one is yours. You're out there shooting. Think about that. Bringing home that love and feeling. You folks have a really marvelous week. Get out there and shoot. And remember to make every click your story.